because we both are like, ah!
I have told myself all morning, boom, just chill, Deb. Just chill.
No chill. We go 100%, 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah, two squirrels on a video camera together. This ought to go well. Cam ready. Kate, I'm Deborah Criddle. I have Mark Jones here with me. We are actually going to team up and do a little bit of a podcast, and we're both very, very, very energetic people. So hopefully we can bring you some really entertaining things and not go off on wild tangents. So today we're going to introduce to you the Wo-Mann We Do Know Things podcast.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to do this. This is the first time I personally have done a podcast from one location to another. So those of you out there listening, watching, I'm in Texas, San Antonio, Texas, and Deborah is in, where the heck are you in the world?
I'm in God's country up here even though it's crappy weather in comparison to Texas, I'm actually in Idaho Falls, which is in southeastern Idaho.
How is the weather in Idaho Falls right now?
Oh, well, if you ask an Idaho girl, it's not that wonderful because it's not downpour snow. It's actually sunny, and I could probably be in a t-shirt and not even be cold. But
oh, that's nice and unheard of this time of the year, I would imagine, for you guys.
Yeah, I'm a snowmobiler, so I would rather there be plenty of snow for me to be out playing in the snow. But
yeah, it must be climate change or something. Global warming.
Global warming. Yes. Definitely global warming. That is.
So
that's not a topic we want to talk about.
Not at all. We do mortgages. We don't do politics. So we've got an article that we want to cover, and it has a lot to do with a topic that has been kicked around our industry for the last couple of weeks. I personally have done 3 back-to-back episodes on Key Factors podcast regarding this with realtors, and just got to have a discussion yesterday with a group of lenders, all branch managers, and we got to give our 2 cents. But now I'm with the brains of Mann Mortgage, in my opinion, and I want to get her take. She wants to get mine. We want to add some value to what you as a realtor, lender, are out there doing. So that topic is about that NAR ruling, and I'll pull this article up on the screen here, and we'll do our best to navigate through all the advertisements. But the title of the article is, "How Could the NAR Lawsuit Verdict Impact the Mortgage Industry?" And do you want to talk about it before we read the article or after? Maybe,
well,
you know what?
Let me tell you a little bit from my standpoint, because you're in a little bit different. And this is where this is going to be cool for us to kind of rip this apart, because you're getting industry communication. And I have a whole nother side of that. I have asked realtor after realtor and people that are in the industry up here, and they're like, what NAR lawsuit? That's what I'm getting here. And I feel like from a mortgage perspective, this has got a huge chance to shift our market, but Idaho is traditionally behind things. And I agree. I'm like, okay, Mark, where are you seeing things in Texas that this NAR lawsuit's going to affect real estate side, both buyer and seller side? And where is it going to trickle down to the mortgage industry? So I want to lean on you and what you're seeing in Texas. I'm at the mercy of reading articles here and there and just waiting for it to hit Idaho.
So in Texas, or at least San Antonio, most, if not all of our realtors are associated with NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors. They have to be a member of that in order to show properties, list properties. They're kind of the godfather or gatekeeper to the lock boxes in San Antonio. So I've had the opportunity to speak to plenty of realtors, and you've got agents on one side of the track that are thinking that it's not going to affect them at all because it's business as usual moving forward. And then you've got agents that believe that it could be the end of the days, you know. I think it fits somewhere in the middle. I think that change is upon us regardless. I think whether you like it or not, just like the concept of rural country town, eventually we'll get a Walmart. Everybody hates the fact that it's coming to town, but then once it does, half of the town works there. So it's just one of those things that it appears to be challenging and detrimental to their business. But at the same time, everything always gets better, in my opinion, when change comes about. We can get into should it be changed? Why should it be changed? All of that stuff. But I mean, what's your take on it?
Well, this is interesting. As you read this, we have a love.
Can you read this? You're probably a way better reader than I am.
No, I'm old school and I have this in a little piece of paper.
Okay, go ahead and read that for us.
Listen, I've been in the mortgage industry for 27 plus years. That means I started with loan applications handwritten. So every once in a while I have to pull out this old paper stuff and
wait a minute. You don't take applications on paper napkins anymore?
No. No. I've refrained from that for a couple of months, okay, not very long.
Gotcha.
But what's crazy about this is when this first starts out, it basically says, where did this start from? This started from people who felt like they were forced into paying real estate commissions. Mm-hmm. And I find that interesting because sure, in our industry and real estate, sometimes you just have people sign and they don't read. It doesn't matter how much you try. Please read what you're signing. Mm-hmm. We're at the mercy of somebody actually reading it. So it starts out talking about why that lawsuit came about was people felt like they were forced in paying the fee on those commissions and some of them can be pretty high. That's a pretty big chunk of money coming from a seller's money that they've
proceeds,
got from their
correct
money. Yeah, from their proceeds. So it goes into that, and then it goes into like really why do we have to worry about this in the real estate side, and why do we have to worry about this from the mortgage side?
Right.
And that 5 to 6% that it talks about in there, it says that's typical, and that's typical in my market. Is that typical?
Same.
Down in
yeah,
you
no,
guys?
that is typical in our market as well. My understanding is that the commission is paid to the selling agent. The selling agent uses a portion of that to market the property to a buyer's agent, thus passing along a portion of their commission to bring them a buyer. But I think they're saying that they didn't know. They're saying that they did not have the ability to negotiate that, or were almost forced. And I don't know. I can't side with that. But at the same time, the verdict is already, the hammer's already been dropped.
Yep. They already felt that was accurate, that the client, the consumer that said that they had overpaid those commissions, they did side with them and said, yep, you're right. We agree. Whether they knew or didn't know, it doesn't matter. The verdict was laid out. So where does that take our industry after that? And I think why I feel so passionate to stay on top of this is it is going to affect us in the mortgage land, because Absolutely. We are not allowed to negotiate real estate contracts in our licensing requirements. And Mark, you speak for yourself, but I probably weekly have somebody asking me to help them fill out a for sale by owner contract.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I can't. I can tell you what date it is.
Right. And it's tough because there are many situations that you're working with a newer to the business agent that is behind the scenes asking your advice, asking your opinion, and you're able to give that opinion simply because you want the deal to work. You want the deal to go through. So you're just going to add value when necessary, but you can't play their role. That's just kind of like a hard, fast line. Now, I will say that how long have these commissions been set? For quite some time, right?
Yeah, I've never known anything but this.
Same.
Yeah.
So I was also not in the business when lenders were able to make X amount on the loan like they used to. I got in after the fact. So
I was.
Yeah, see, I only know the max I've ever been paid is 1.5 basis points on a loan, which i.e. 1.5%. That was even a while ago, because at a certain time when I started building my team, it started dwindling down and using those basis points to pay a portion of the team.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that lenders, and I think it's pretty unanimous that lenders believe we keep deals together. We make deals happen, but at the same time, we can't open doors. We can't show them properties. We can't negotiate on the contract, but do those things justify a 3%, sometimes 4% commission? That's kind of what I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, that's definitely sensitive, isn't it? Because it's like you have real estate agents that you've worked with that seriously, you handed them the buyer. They came with the house they wanted to buy. They wrote up the contract and they scheduled a closing at the end. That's like all they did.
Right.
Here's 3% of $300,000. There's $9,000. Well, you just made about $9,000 an hour. That's about what it was.
And that's, I mean, even talking new construction where they're giving away 5% just to drop them off, hand them off, and that's that.
Yeah. But then you have the other ones, and you also can speak to this, that you have real estate agents that are in the trenches with you, and you're like, I can't get their stupid pay stub. I need you to help me get the pay stub. And they're, where's your pay stub, people? Get these pay stubs to your lender. You've got to be here. And they're worth their weight in gold when you've got a realtor that will jump in those trenches with you.
No, I have to agree 100% with that. It's just that I think change has happened in a lot of industries in the past, we'll call it 4 or 5 years. One that has not changed much is the real estate side of things. They're no longer using fax machines. They're no longer meeting with sellers and buyers in person to get signatures on contracts, to negotiate things. It's been streamlined. And then you have the added bonus of the $1 Million Listing Club, the Selling Sunset TV show, all of these things that are taking our profession and making it glamorous. And that, I think, is what ended up being the demise of this verdict, to be honest, is consumers finally got an opportunity to stick it to us after seeing us on social media, driving our nice cars, fast, big houses, vacations, etc. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely, so back up a few years, I was a loan processor when in the subprime industry, you charged 3% origination. That was just what it was. And it was a 3% origination. And then the subprime investor that we sold to kicked back money to us too. And it was nothing for the subprime industry to make between 4 and 5 to 6%. And that was like clients that were one day out of bankruptcy and things that were a little bit more risky, and they can't go to their local bank. So unfortunately, I mean, this is the reality. The laws have changed, so I can voice this, but they didn't have a choice. So they paid what they had to pay. They didn't either have a house and pay 6% or just don't get a loan and you're either renting or you're homeless.
Yeah.
And that, the nice thing about when 2008 came about and some of the stuff that led up to that is it cleaned out the market with those people that were more worried about making a huge paycheck than to pause for a minute and realize we are really gouging consumers. We really are. We've got people in a vulnerable space and we're taking advantage of them. And our industry, the mortgage industry, has just got the snot kicked out of them completely with fees and everything, which I don't mind. I make a good living and I feel like I make an honest living. Sometimes I make $1 an hour and sometimes I don't make that low of a number, but the real estate commissions is needing to be regulated or changed slightly to fit the mold of borrowers are finding homes on whatever search engine.
Yep.
They are technically in their mind already doing the research to know what that house is worth to them. They already can Google search what is closing costs, what is the standard of the seller's paying, all those things. Some of those questions they're not even asking their realtor anymore. They're asking the internet. And so they're not even relying on those little things anymore. Right. So does it need to be regulated? Does it need to be reined in a little bit? Sure. I think the standard needs to be upset just a little bit.
I agree. And I think you raised a great point that we're going through yet another cleansing of the market. And I think that whether it is natural selection that happens or if it is due to the change, I think it's necessary. I mean, we are in a market to where over the past several years, everybody and their mother, and literally everybody and their mother became a realtor or lender. And it has diluted and devalued the experts in our field. Experts aren't seen as the experts if you can't TikTok, but you can work your way around a 1003 and guidelines. You know what I'm going with that?
Yep. Yeah.
It's a sad thing, but at the same time, a lot of us experts, and back to what I was saying on the realtors that had one opinion versus the others, all the top producers, they could care less if there's a change. They're like, hurry up and get it over with so I can figure out how to work this new comp plan.
What's my new normal? What's my new normal? Let's go.
That's exactly right. And the ones that are a bit afraid or fighting for the concept of holding as much as they can are the ones that probably will not make it. And I'm going to say that boldly because you're doing it for the wrong reasons. I think
you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
yep, exactly.
I mean, I think we all got into this business for the money initially. Just any industry you get in for the money. Then for me,
listen, back in 1995, when I came into it, I did not do it for the money. I didn't know what the freak I was doing, just in case you want to know. I made $1,000 a month and I was in high school and I thought I was rolling in the
okay. So that makes perfect sense. From my aspect,
side note.
That's good to know. From my aspect, I 100% got into this business. I took all my real estate classes before going to take the test. It was like, this isn't for me. I'm more of the financial side. I had worked with credit. I had worked with finances. Let me see what this side is like. So I took those classes, passed the test, and it was like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make a killing at it. Yeah. I mean, fast forward 6 months into it, I fell in love with helping people, the faces that we get, because new loan officers, let's face it, in the business, you're getting nothing but turn downs anyway.
Yeah.
I was crushing the turn downs, and the people, the appreciation was more than I had ever seen or felt in any other industry I had been in. That on top of the fact that I just helped someone that was told no several times to purchase their biggest asset. That changes the trajectory of their life moving forward, regardless of any other circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. We are going to see the weeding out. And there are just like in every industry, there are going to be some rough ones that muddle through for whatever reason. We're going to see the ones that, like you said, they don't care. Just give me my new change that I've got to implement in my day-to-day operations and let me go back to helping people.
Right.
And that's going to be the nicest thing we see in the mortgage industry and the real estate side is every Tom, Dick, and Harry that got their real estate license because their sister wanted to sell their house and all you had to do is be able to sign your name to sell a house 2 years ago. You are contractually
fiduciary. That's right.
It's like, did you read that 7-page contract? Did you read that if they back out of this, that somebody could be sued? And like, did you understand the logistics behind making somebody sign that document? Or did you just see your 3% commission?
Right.
Sadly, they saw their 3% commission. They didn't see, well, they just don't want to buy the house anymore. Well, now you have to fight to get earnest money back. And this is a big beef I have is, well, the lender will just issue a denial. You can't just issue a denial. Like if the borrower doesn't like the house anymore,
that's not a reason that they don't qualify.
That doesn't fit under other. Compliance has a problem with that kind of stuff. So then you run into the issue with a real estate agent. Well, I'm never going to send you business again. Okay, well, that's fine. I don't want to go to the black pearly gates either for falsifying documents. So
yeah, that's true.
That's the ones I hope go that aren't trying to toe the right line.
So that leads me to I don't know if it's a question or more so a concept, because the verdict in this leads me to believe that buyers more than likely will need to pay their own buyer's agent. And if that is the case, skipping the fact of how much it is, they'll probably get that taken care of once they realize that nobody's going to save up 3% before they save up their 3.5% for down payment, is solutions on how that's going to work moving forward. I'm thinking that they're going to find a way to allow us to finance some of that stuff within the loan. I don't know. It's just something that I think would be possible. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Idaho is a little bit behind on their contracts. We still have a little bit of the old title insurance stuff in there that needs to be updated. So I'm kind of hoping we get a whole new contract. And instead of it being on the seller's paperwork that, hey, I'm going to list the house and it's going to cost 6% and I'm going to share that 6% with the buyer's agent and all that goes, like, I don't see that. That's none of my documents. I hope we see a line item on the purchase contract that says, we're going to buy this house for $300,000. The seller's agent's going to make 2%. The buyer's agent's going to make 2%, and the seller's going to cover that 4%. But that's part of the negotiations.
Right.
And
it's not secretly at the bottom on one line. Yeah. And a little bit convoluted in how to understand it.
Yeah. And I think that at that point, the seller, I do kind of hope that it is the choice of the seller because that has been the path. If I'm going to sell my house, most people who know anything about real estate know there's a 6% right off the top somewhere if you're going to list it.
Oh yeah.
And so that stigma, that whatever that word is you want to shove in there, that's already there. So now let's just open the door to have that be a negotiating factor when we're putting the contract together and just let a seller still pay for it, but have both buyer and seller aware of what that number looks like.
Yeah, bring it to the forefront. And as an example, from something that we can relate to is interest rates. That is the one thing that, in my opinion, new to the business, even some seasoned loan officers are scared to go over with their customer in fear of them shopping them at some point in time. For me, I continue to practice and coach the concept of, it's time to jump on a Zoom call. I'm getting ready to share my screen with you, literally log into our Optimal Blue so that you can see all the little different pricing options. I'm going to explain what they mean, how they impact you, and how you'll have the option to actually choose one of these once you're under contract. But until then, this thing that we're looking at, I could log out of it and log back in it, and there would be different rates.
Yeah, especially right now.
Exactly. And I think that the consumer, and matter of fact, they told me, wow, no one has ever actually showed me this. They appreciate it. It adds instant value to what you're doing. It brings your value to the forefront. And I think it will help realtors at the same time doing the same thing, even if it's just a mental thing from the buyer's aspect. Or am I looking out for something? No, here it is. This is literally what we're negotiating, and then we can start negotiating.
Yeah. Do you know another thing that I hope gets on there is the transaction fees? Do you deal with that down in Texas?
We did for a brief moment when you're dealing with real estate teams or it's just, we've got a transaction fee of X that goes to pay our coordinator.
And I'm totally fine paying it.
Sure.
But what's really hard is I usually don't know about it
until the end. We're closing. That's right.
Like, okay, well, here's a $395 lender credit to pay for the transaction fee I didn't know we had. I got you, so.
Oh, and by the way, this is going to be a mail out and the buyers have a power of attorney.
Yeah. And the remote notary, there's another $400 right there. Okay, cool. I just want, as much as we have to be disclosed, I mean, every penny we charge is disclosed. I just want that same transparency on those real estate contracts. And I think when you really look at this lawsuit and you dive into it, it never would have happened if that transparency would have been on the contract, because you'd had so many eyes along the line. You got a seller that's having to explain his commissions, a buyer's agent having to explain his commissions, a lender saying, hey, do you understand these are the commissions? Hey, this is where it looks like, and you got a lot of set of eyes protecting that consumer. And if you're doing your job ethically, this is where I am like not even scared of mortgage law. If you're doing your job ethically, those rules won't bother you.
You got nothing to worry about. Absolutely. Nope. I'm right there with you. So one last thing before we wrap this up, which spawns from this actual verdict, which now the buyers are putting together a class action lawsuit. Matter of fact, it's going to be even bigger than this one, claiming that they are overpaying for properties and that they are truly the ones that are paying for those commissions that were just ruled that the sellers are, because in the end, they're the only ones stroking the check, basically.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, but at the same time, I can see both sides. I do feel like if this last verdict went through, I see no issues with this one going through as well. It's
it's
actually a stronger case. Yeah, it's actually a stronger case than the first one. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm behind a step because I've been trying to figure out where does this affect me in Idaho, and I'm still there. But in one of the articles that I did read, it did say that the fear was that it would spiral through all the states.
Yeah.
Now you've got, just like every lawsuit, Mark, every lawsuit, you're going to have bandwagon jumpers, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, wait a minute. How do I spin this to make my $1,000?
And that's basically what it's going to end up being when it's all said and done. $1,000 to every buyer and seller.
Well, I think what's going to happen is my first thought on this was, okay, we've got this one big lawsuit that came in that was won. Fine. Now all these buyers are putting this class action lawsuit together. Okay, fine. Then this another group's going to come in. These lawsuits are going to come until the laws mold to what's going to protect the consumer.
Right. So and it's isn't it what happened in our industry with the TRID when that took place? All of these changes that come about stem from something. In this scenario, I would imagine it stemmed from realtor arrogance, to be honest.
Yeah. Somebody sued somebody, so now we have a disclosure. Yeah. Somebody sued somebody, so now we have a new form. It's just, that's the world, like the lead-based paint disclosure. I always tell people, some kid ate lead-based paint chips, got sick, sued HUD. Now we have to disclose lead-based paint exists. I mean, that's what I tell people. I really think there's sadly some truth behind that. So now,
for sure, it was a sticker on the wall that said "scratch and sniff." Of course.
Yeah. For a greater time, eat the paint chips. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I really do think that we do have we do have some good people in seats in Washington, D.C. that really do have our consumers' best interest in mind in most cases. Mm-hmm. They've got to step it up faster. We've got to get these consumers protected because unfortunately, you have bad apples in every industry. And there are some laws that have to protect people for their lack of knowledge. This isn't their knowledge zone. We got people who collect garbage for a living and are rock star garbage collectors. They don't know how to read contracts, or
let's even say we've got people that literally operate on your brain and they don't know how to read contracts either.
And they don't have time to care. They have to trust who they are signing these papers with. And I'm a big advocate, and I know you are too, is don't not ask me questions. I don't want you to trust me. I want you to ask those questions, and I want to be able to pull out the form that says, here it is in writing, why you should trust what I just told you.
That's right.
And have the contract match what your word vomit is and have the law that backs that up. It's a win-win for everybody to an extent, right? We don't want regulators everywhere, but we got to have some to save those that just don't have time or the education to be able to be protective of themselves.
I agree with that. I truly do agree with that. Well, I mean, I think that was a darn good first episode. Gosh, I guess what we'll continue to do to those listening and watching this, we'll continue to bring you something new in regards to real estate mortgage topics that you'll get two different perspectives on, one from the north, one from the south. We're both crazy, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's the one thing we'll always be.
That's right. We'll be consistent at. Yeah, that's right. Deb, you want to close out with anything?
You know what? I'm just super excited. I really am super excited to do this. I really think that we're going to have some topics that we don't mesh on. And I can't wait to argue with you and have people be able to listen to that argument and then, hug before we end. That's what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I think I said it yesterday. Conflict, I've never believed is a bad thing. It's a bad thing when you walk away from it unresolved. Yep. So hopefully we can learn something, grow from this. And who knows, maybe we could change the world.
Yes. Well, when Deborah becomes president of the United States, which would be a scary day.
You want that job? Ooh.
No, nobody wants me in that kind of power. No, nobody wants me in that kind of power. So yeah, here we go. I think we end here with our wonderful podcast of Wo-Mann. We know things. We're going to bring you some hot topics and things that maybe you don't know about. I think this is going to be awesome.
I love it. Deborah, you're awesome.
Mark, you're awesome. We're awesome.
We are awesome.
Everything is awesome.